Chapter 1. The shrill ring of my phone yanked me out of sleep. Groggy and confused, I blinked at the screen. Linda. Linda was my agent. But wasn't I gone? I was certain I had jumped from the company's rooftop, plunging from the 15th floor to the cold, hard pavement below. A shiver ran down my spine as I remembered the fall, the bone-crushing impact, the searing pain. It felt like every inch of my body had shattered. Yet here I was very much alive, staring at my phone as if nothing had happened. I glanced at the time, trying to make sense of it all. And then it hit me. I had been given a second chance. Somehow I was back in the year before it all went to hell. In my past life, I was young, clueless, and completely taken advantage of. My company had tricked me into signing a ruthless 10-year contract, essentially selling my soul. I worked myself to the bone, always thinking that if I just held on, played by the rules, and made it to the end of the contract, I could finally break free. But I was wrong. Just when I could almost taste freedom, the company had other plans. They sold me off like some cheap commodity to one of their sleazy investors, all to secure funding. I clenched my jaw, feeling the old rage bubble up inside me. I will never forget that night. The humiliation. The way that disgusting man had taken photos of me, naked and vulnerable, and then passed them around like party favors at his drunken gatherings. It didn't take long for those photos to leak online. The internet exploded, accusing me of sleeping my way to the top. The hate, the insults, the constant barrage of online abuse. It became unbearable. So I ended it. I thought that if I just focused on my work, kept my head down, and waited out the contract, things would be okay. But I was nothing more than a pawn to them, a stepping stone for their other artists. Well, now I was back. And this time, I wasn't going to play nice. If they thought they could walk all over me again, they had another thing coming. I'd make their lives hell. My phone buzzed again. Linda was persistent. I'd give her that. I answered, and her voice immediately pierced through the line. Rebecca, what the hell have you been doing? I've been calling for ages. I stayed silent, letting her rant. You've got that reality show, Heart in the Countryside, coming up in a few days. Don't forget what we talked about. Stick to the plan, keep your image in check, play the role, and for the love of God, don't cause any drama. Got it? Sure, I muttered flatly. Then I hung up. With only a year left on my contract, I wasn't going to let these parasites get anything more out of me. They could all go to hell. Chapter 2. Heart in the Countryside was one of those reality shows where celebrities were thrown together to live in a rustic setting for a week. We'd have to cook, clean, and complete tasks to earn money for food. It was supposed to be charming and show our everyday sides. In my past life, I had been cast as the troublemaker. The company had paired me with Carol, one of their darlings, to create a contrast. I was supposed to be the brat, demanding, difficult, and over the top, while Carol was the sweetheart. She'd play the humble, hard-working angel, and my antics would make her look even more virtuous. But not this time. The day before filming, I booked my own flight to the set. No assistance. No first-class treatment. Just me, a suitcase, and a one-way economy ticket. While the other celebrities arrived with their entourages, breezing through VIP lines and lounging in business class, I sat alone in the packed economy cabin, my oversized bag crammed beneath my seat. As I made my way through the airport, I could feel the eyes on me. Fans and paparazzi were everywhere, snapping photos. It didn't take long for the pictures to pop up online. Rebecca's trying way too hard to be relatable. Economy class? Seriously. Look at that massive bag. What's she even carrying in there? She's probably being punished by the company for bullying Carol. I can't stand celebs who act like they're just like us while making millions. I scrolled through the comments, feeling a bitter laugh rise in my throat. People were so quick to judge, so eager to latch onto whatever narrative they thought they saw. And the ones who didn't know any better? They just went along with the crowd, happy to jump on the hate train. I wasn't in the mood to be their punching bag. So I fired back in the comments. Yep, totally faking it. Want to upgrade my seat for me? I won't complain. As for the bag, why do you care? What, are you an FBI or something? Twitter exploded. Apparently, no one expected me to clap back. Within minutes, I was trending. Rebecca fights back. Rebecca flying economy. Rebecca's airport look. She's lost it. Who argues with fans like that? Her outfit's actually kind of cute, though. So unprofessional. A public figure should know better. I replied again. Yeah, I'm so unprofessional, so what? By the time I arrived at the filming location, a picture-perfect village surrounded by rolling green hills, I couldn't care less about the online chatter. The setting was charming. I give them that. Our home for the week was a quaint wooden cabin perched on the edge of a field. I pushed open the door and stepped inside, finding the other celebrities already gathered around the table, chatting. All eyes turned to me. I was the last one to arrive, of course. Carol was the first to speak, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. Rebecca, so glad you could make it. We've all been waiting for you. She was trying to make me look bad, implying I was late, that I didn't care about anyone's time but my own. She even reached out to grab my suitcase, playing the helpful little saint. But I wasn't about to let her touch my things. I held onto it tightly, not budging an inch. I didn't want her filth anywhere near me. In my last life, Carol had sold me out, quite literally. She'd slept with the same disgusting investor who had assaulted me, all for a role in a high-profile drama. And she'd been the one to suggest to the company that sending me to his bed would sweeten the deal. I had been nothing more than a pawn to them, a plaything. Not this time. I brushed past her without a word, dropped my suitcase by the wall, and took a seat at the table. Immediately, the online fandom went wild. Rebecca's attitude is disgusting. How dare she treat our sweet Carol like that? Carol was just trying to help. Chapter 3. Once we'd all gathered, the director suggested we do some quick introductions to get comfortable with each other. Steven went first. As the leader of one of the hottest boy bands in the industry, he was a household name. His talent was undeniable and his fan base? Insanely loyal. You crossed them at your own risk. Next up was Kevin, a seasoned actor with a career spanning decades. His recent role in a hit drama had earned him a Best Supporting Actor award. Then there was Melissa, the industry's resident princess. Her father ran HS Entertainment, so she wasn't here to hustle like the rest of us. For her, this was more of a life experience than a job. That left Carol and me. Carol, the nation's darling with her sweet smile and innocent charm. And me? Well, I'd been branded the troublemaker, the girl you love to hate. For our first task, the producers threw us a curveball: we'd be cooking dinner ourselves, using a wood-burning stove. No modern conveniences, just firewood and elbow grease. We split into 2 groups to get started. Steven and I were assigned to head out to the garden to pick vegetables for the meal. I considered asking Melissa to join us, but before I could say anything, Carol jumped in. Steven, she said, her voice dripping with sweetness, can I join you and Rebecca? She tried to make it sound like she was asking both of us, but her eyes were locked on Steven, practically begging for his approval. It was obvious she didn't care what my answer was. Steven, ever the gentleman, smiled and nodded. Sure, why not? So, the 3 of us headed to the garden. Steven and I got to work right away, picking vegetables. At first, he fumbled a bit, unsure of what to do, so I showed him how to pick the ripe ones. He caught on quickly. Meanwhile, Carol managed to pick maybe 2 peppers before dramatically sighing and putting a hand on her back. Ugh, my back, she complained, sinking down onto the ground as if she'd just run a marathon. I rolled my eyes and stood up, hands on my hips. You've barely picked anything, and you're already tired? If you're not going to help now, don't expect to eat later. There's no free ride here, Carol. Her face flushed with anger, and she pointed a shaky finger at me. You. What? I cut her off. If you've got the energy to argue, you've got the energy to keep working. I wasn't trying to slack off. She shot back, her voice defensive. I just needed a break. Well, break time's over. Get back to work. Carol looked toward Steven, hoping he'd jump to her defense, but he stayed quiet, focused on the vegetables in front of him. Realizing she had no backup, she huffed and reluctantly got back to picking peppers. I felt a surge of satisfaction. God, it felt good to shut her down. There was something incredibly satisfying about calling people out when they deserved it. Since the show was being live-streamed, the chat exploded immediately. What's Rebecca's problem? Why is she always picking on Carol? Rebecca's such a drama queen. Can we get her off the show already? Yeah, she's always starting stuff. But honestly, Rebecca's not wrong. Carol was slacking off. Exactly. Carol was totally trying to get out of doing her share. You can say what you want, but Rebecca's kind of a badass. None of us knew what the viewers were saying, of course. By the time we finished picking the vegetables, we headed to the kitchen to start washing up and prepping for dinner. Chapter 4. After what happened earlier, Carol wasn't about to try slacking off again. This time she stood by the sink, washing the vegetables with exaggerated care, clearly determined to avoid any more confrontations. The firewood crew returned, hauling in a large basket of logs. With the two guys busy getting the fire going, the rest of us were left to figure out how to cook dinner. We all looked around at one another, unsure of where to even start. The kitchen was a far cry from anything any of us were used to. No modern appliances, just a wood-burning stove and a pile of ingredients that needed to be turned into something edible. I sighed, realizing that if I didn't take charge, we'd be standing around all night. "I'll cook," I said, stepping forward. Back in my previous life, whenever I wasn't busy with work, I'd spend a lot of time at home cooking for myself. I wasn't a professional chef by any means, but my meals were definitely edible, and I figured that was all we needed tonight. Carol, of course, couldn't resist. She crossed her arms and watched me, her lips curling into a smirk. "Are you sure you know what you're doing? If you're just going to mess it up, don't bother." I didn't even bother looking at her. Instead, I quickly rinsed the pan, got it on the stove, and began heating it up. Only once I was sure everything was ready did I turn to her with a shrug. "If you don't trust my cooking," I said casually, "you can always skip dinner." That shut her up for a second. But Carol was nothing if not persistent. She switched tactics, her eyes suddenly welling up with crocodile tears. "Rebecca," she began in a trembling voice, "are you mad at me? If I did something wrong, I'm really sorry. Please don't hold it against me, okay? For Andrew's sake." The second she mentioned Andrew's name, the livestream chat exploded. "Wait, what? What does Andrew have to do with this?" "Oh, I know. Andrew's been chasing Carol for a while now. Didn't he just send her a truckload of roses on set the other day?" "What? When did this happen? And why am I just hearing about it now? But what does this have to do with Rebecca? Isn't it obvious? Rebecca probably has a thing for Andrew and wants to steal him from Carol." Melissa, always the peacemaker, handed Carol a tissue and gave her a sympathetic pat on the back. "Come on, Rebecca's not mad at you. Don't cry, okay?" "Thank you," Carol sniffled, giving Melissa a grateful smile. Chapter 5. Hearing Andrew's name stirred up a memory I hadn't thought about in a while. Andrew, a 3-time Best Actor winner, a golden boy of the film industry. To his fans, he was the perfect gentleman, kind, innocent, completely focused on his craft. But behind the scenes, things were very different. Andrew indulged in every vice you could think of: gambling, substances, women, the whole package. In my past life, Andrew had set his sights on me. He thought my looks made me the perfect trophy, but I wasn't interested and shot him down. After that, he quickly turned his attention to Carol, and from that point on, he seemed to take every opportunity to make my life difficult. Andrew had clout and he knew how to use it. He blocked me from projects, spread rumors about me, and made sure I was stuck in the industry's shadows. Meanwhile, Carol plays the innocent victim, running to Andrew every time things don't go her way. It was her favorite move, pretending to be weak and helpless to get others to fight her battles for her. Because of their scheming, I had to start from scratch, taking whatever roles I could, going from audition to audition just to stay afloat. As the memories came flooding back, I felt my fists clench at my sides. The anger simmered just beneath the surface. Now that I remembered how they had both conspired against me, there was no way I was going to let them walk all over me again. Carol had brought up Andrew's name on purpose, hoping to stir up drama and make it seem like the three of us were involved in some kind of love triangle. She wanted the public to think I was meddling with Andrew, which would inevitably send his fans into a frenzy. But two could play that game. I smiled, turning to face Carol. "Carol, I'm not sure where you're getting this idea that I'm close with Andrew. We barely know each other. He doesn't owe me anything. But you..." I paused, letting the words sink in. "You've certainly been cozying up to him, haven't you? Wasn't it just last week that you posted that picture of him at your place, drinking coffee and reading a book?" Carol's face turned pale. She'd been stringing Andrew along for months, never fully committing but always keeping him interested. Of course, that was because she had someone else, Richard, the investor who had assaulted me in my previous life. Richard wasn't the kind of man to tolerate his kept women playing around with other guys, especially not someone as high profile as Andrew. As soon as I finished speaking, the chat froze for a second, and then the comments started flooding in. I knew it. Carol and Andrew are totally a thing. Wait, Andrew's dating someone? That's it. Unfollowing. I knew exactly what kind of storm this was going to cause once the episode aired. And knowing Richard's temper, Carol was going to have a lot more to worry about than me. By the time we finished cooking, Carol was still standing there, dazed and quiet. As everyone else sat down to eat, I walked over to her and leaned in close enough that only she could hear me. "If you want to keep making trouble for me on this show, go ahead," I whispered. "But I'm not the pushover I used to be." I let that hang in the air for a moment and then added, "Oh, and one more thing, how's Richard's bed? Comfortable?" Her eyes widened in shock. She had no idea how I knew about that. In my previous life, I hadn't found out until much later, when my scandal exploded, and my private photos were leaked all over the internet. Back then, Carol had gleefully rubbed it in my face, telling me about Richard just to twist the knife. But now I had that information early and I planned to use it. I wasn't going to let her get away with anything this time. For the rest of the week, Carol kept her distance. She didn't dare try any of her usual tricks. The 7 days of filming flew by, and by the end of it, the script had completely flipped. Originally, I had been brought on to make Carol look good, but instead it was the opposite. Throughout the show, I threw myself into every task, always taking the lead and always working hard. And my easy banter with Steven? It didn't take long for fans to start shipping us as a couple. Meanwhile, Carol's laziness was on full display. She found every excuse to avoid work, and when things didn't go her way, she'd cry. But with the live broadcast, there was no way to edit out her little stunts. By the time the show wrapped up, I had gained a ton of new followers. Carol, on the other hand, saw her popularity take a nosedive. Her perfect image was starting to crack, and people weren't as charmed by her as they used to be. As soon as I got home, Linda, my agent, was already blowing up my phone. The second I picked up, she launched into a rant. "Rebecca, what the hell were you thinking? You were supposed to make Carol look good, not steal the spotlight. You think you're some kind of big shot now, huh? Too good to listen to me." "Sure," I muttered, barely listening as I hung up on her mid-sentence. She called back a few more times, but I ignored every single one. Chapter 6. I took a few days off to clear my head, but I wasn't just sitting around, I had a plan. I reached out to a private investigator I'd worked with before. I told him to dig up dirt on Andrew. I already knew he was involved in some shady stuff, gambling, drugs, the whole 9 yards. Most people in the industry knew about it too, but they all turned a blind eye. After all, business was business, and Andrew was a moneymaker. But I wasn't most people. I had nothing to lose, and I wasn't afraid to play dirty. This time, I was going to make sure Andrew paid for everything he'd done. I handed the investigator a hefty payment, told him to find solid evidence, and left the rest in his hands. Meanwhile, thanks to the buzz from the variety show, I got invited to a big gala. They wanted me to perform a duet with another star. On the day of the event, I arrived early. I rehearsed a couple of times, and when the director gave me the thumbs up, I headed backstage to relax before the big show. There I was, minding my own business, scrolling through my phone, when suddenly the door flung open. I looked up and my stomach twisted. "Andrew." I instantly felt a wave of nausea. Just seeing his face was enough to ruin my mood. I fought the urge to hurl my stiletto at him and kept my expression ice cold. "What do you want, Andrew?" Without warning, he strode over and grabbed my hand. "Rebecca, you like me, don't you?" I yanked my hand back, glaring at him. "Are you out of your mind?" He looked almost desperate, his voice rising. "I saw it. On the show you were jealous, right? You can't hide it anymore." Unbelievable. Some men need real talent to feel confident, but not Andrew. As long as he could walk upright, he thought the world was at his feet. I'd met delusional people before, but this guy took it to a whole new level. "Jealous of you?" I scoffed. "Please. With an ego that big, it's a wonder you don't have your own gravitational pull. I wouldn't be interested in you if you were the last man on Earth." I leaned forward, staring at him. "Let me spell it out for you, don't. Like, You. Got it? Now get lost. For a moment, Andrew was speechless. His face went pale. I pointed to the door. Are you leaving or should I? When he didn't move, I rolled my eyes and turned to walk out. But before I could leave, he grabbed my wrist, his grip tightening. I spun around irritated. Andrew let go. His face had darkened, his voice low. You really think you can humiliate me like this? Don't push your luck. I wasn't surprised. Andrew had always been the type to lash out when his ego took a hit. And right now, I just delivered a major blow. I pulled my wrist free and gave him one last look. Your pride? It's worthless. And with that, I walked out without a second glance. Chapter 7. I wandered around backstage for a bit, making sure Andrew had left before heading back to my dressing room. But just as I was about to walk in, disaster struck. A young assistant came rushing by and bam! Spilled a full cup of coffee all over me. I froze, staring down at the mess. The show was less than an hour away, and now my outfit was completely ruined. The assistant started stammering out apologies, but I was too annoyed to listen. I waved her off, telling her to get out of my sight. My own assistant rushed over, frantically trying to dab away the stain. What the hell? Doesn't everyone know you're not supposed to bring drinks backstage? She glanced at the clock, panic rising in her voice. What are we going to do? There's no time. I sighed. Stop trying to clean it. It's pointless. Don't you see what's going on here? She wasn't just careless. Backstage rules are strict, and yet somehow she managed to carry that cup all the way here without spilling a drop. Until she ran into me. This was intentional. I told my assistant to go grab the backup dresses from the car. While she did that, I went straight to the director to explain the situation. After listening to me, the director nodded thoughtfully and then picked one of my remaining dresses. This one will work. Go change. I quickly got dressed and headed back to the waiting area. The performance itself went off without a hitch, but by the time it was over, I was completely drained. I barely made it back to my hotel room before collapsing onto the bed. I woke up hours later to the sound of my phone buzzing. It was Lynn. The second I answered, she started yelling. Rebecca, what the hell are you thinking? First, you stole Carol's spotlight, and now you're trying to hog the center stage at the gala too? If you piss off the director, the company won't bail you out. You'll have to clean up your own mess. I groaned, rubbing my temples. Was she seriously getting worked up over this? I hung up without bothering to respond. Finally, some peace. I sighed and opened Weibo, already dreading what I might see. And sure enough, there I was, right at the top of the trending topics. Hashtag Rebecca changes outfit. Hashtag Rebecca attention seeker. Hashtag Rebecca steals the spotlight. None of the headlines were good. The comments were flooding in, and they weren't pulling any punches. I knew it. Rebecca can't keep her act together for long. I actually liked her on that variety show, but now? Total fake. She changed outfits just to steal attention. Classic attention-seeking move. This is going to blow up in her face. Big mistake. Does she think we're all idiots? Changing outfits just to get noticed? Pathetic. I was still scrolling through the hate when another topic blew up the rankings. Hashtag Rebecca Andrew. It shot to the top and my stomach sank. Curious, I clicked on it. Someone had caught Andrew and me on camera backstage. The video showed me entering my dressing room first, followed by Andrew not long after. He stayed inside for a while. The comments were brutal. She's desperate for attention. Stay away from our Andrew, you fame-hungry nobody. Then, of course, there were the bystanders. Isn't Andrew dating Carol? Yeah, so what's Rebecca doing with him? She's clearly trying to break them up. Homewrecker. Just like that, another trending topic shot up the list. Hashtag Rebecca ruins Andrew and Carol. Perfect. Just what I needed, another scandal to deal with. Chapter 8. As soon as I saw the storm brewing online, I knew I had to say something. I quickly typed out a post to set the record straight. Rebecca, I need to clear a few things up. Just minutes before going on stage, an assistant accidentally spilled coffee all over my dress, so I had no choice but to change. This wasn't some attention-seeking stunt or an attempt to steal the spotlight, as some are claiming. Also, for the record, there's nothing going on between me and Andrew. I hit post, and within seconds, the comments started flooding in. We believe you, Rebecca. No way this happened backstage. Food and drinks aren't even allowed. She's just trying to cover up her desperate stunt for attention. Stay away from our Andrew. A few loyal fans stood up for me, but the majority? Pure venom. My post didn't calm the waters at all. In fact, it only seemed to make things worse, sparking yet another round of nasty comments. Honestly, this whole thing could have been resolved so easily. All it would have taken was a simple statement from the production team confirming that the director had approved my outfit change. Or even better, Andrew could have stepped up and said a few words to squash the rumors about us. But no, neither of them bothered. I sighed in frustration, scrolling through my phone until I found the ace I'd been holding onto. With a quick tap, I uploaded the video. It was the security footage I'd had my assistant pull right after the coffee incident. The whole thing was caught on camera, every second of that assistant spilling coffee on me. As soon as the footage went live, the hate started to ease up. But, of course, there were still a few conspiracy theorists who insisted I'd orchestrated the whole thing just to change my outfit and grab attention. Meanwhile, Andrew's fans wouldn't let up. They flooded every single one of my posts with insults and my private messages. They were a dumpster fire of threats and curses, too vile to even look at. Alright then. If they were going to push me, I was ready to push back. I uploaded one more thing. An audio recording from that dressing room conversation with Andrew. The moment the recording hit the internet, the narrative flipped. Andrew's fans? Silent. Stunned. Wait, so Rebecca didn't go after Andrew? I was wrong. I'm so sorry, Rebecca. Why hasn't Andrew said anything? He's letting her take all the heat. I'm disappointed. Andrew should have cleared this up by now. Unfollowing him. This is not the Andrew I thought I knew. As I watched the tide of public opinion turn, I decided it was time for the final blow. I contacted a media outlet and gave them the go-ahead to release the real dirt on Andrew. The proof I'd been sitting on for weeks. Breaking. The real Andrew exposed. This was the evidence my private investigator had dug up. A detailed account of Andrew's gambling, drug use, and involvement with prostitutes. It was concrete, undeniable, and damning. The moment the news broke, it hit the internet like a bomb. The story shot straight to the top of the trending topics, complete with a bright red explosive tag. #Andrew drug use. #Andrew scandal. #Andrew prostitution. #Andrew gambling. One after another, the headlines stacked up. Andrew was everywhere. At first, his fans refused to believe it. They convinced themselves it was just a smear campaign, a baseless rumor. But then the hard evidence started rolling out, and reality hit them like a ton of bricks. They realized the truth. Their idol wasn't who they thought he was. As the story spread, the police made it official. They posted a statement confirming that Andrew had been arrested. The news was everywhere. Andrew's biggest fan accounts started crumbling. Some of them even posted long, emotional essays condemning him for lying to everyone who had supported him. And then, finally, the Gala director decided to make an appearance long after the damage had been done. He posted a weak apology, confirming that yes, my dress had been ruined, and yes, he'd given me permission to change. Chapter 9. With Andrew out of the picture, opportunities started pouring in. A whole slew of projects that used to be locked down by his influence were now up for grabs. I found myself sifting through a mountain of scripts. After some careful consideration, I picked a supporting role. It wasn't the lead, but it was the best character in the bunch, and the production had a solid budget, definitely the smartest choice. Before long, I was fully immersed in filming, focused, and determined to make the most of this opportunity. But halfway through the shoot, Carol showed up. She had somehow managed to snag the second female lead, replacing the original actress. This meant a bunch of scenes had to be res-hot, which threw the entire production into chaos. The moment she arrived, Carol made a beeline for me, her attitude reeking of entitlement. "You really think landing this role makes you hot stuff?" she scoffed. "You're still nothing. Just a second-rate actress playing back up to me." I couldn't help but laugh. Did she really think I'd clawed my way to this role out of desperation? "What's so funny?" she snapped, clearly not expecting my reaction. "I just find it hilarious how you've managed to turn sleeping your way to the top into some kind of art form," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Her expression soured instantly. She was furious but trying to keep her cool. You jealous, huh? You wish you could be me, she hissed, her voice low but venomous. I just smiled. Jealous? Hardly. I mean, I actually got this role on merit. Not everyone has to suck someone's. You know what, to get cast. I turned to walk away, but not before giving her a final look. Enjoy your time at the top, Carol. Just don't forget how you got there. She stood there, speechless, her eyes burning with hatred as I walked off. Of course, she hated me. We'd both started our careers around the same time, but I had always been the one getting attention. I was prettier and more talented, and the fans loved to remind her of it. They'd compare us constantly, with her always coming out as the budget version of me. After I signed with a top agency, my career seemed to take off. But what people didn't know was that the agency wasn't exactly the fairy tale everyone thought it was. Behind the scenes, it was more like a Shark Tank. Still, to the outside world, it looked like I was living the dream, landing lead roles in smaller dramas and solid supporting roles in bigger productions. Carol, on the other hand, was stuck in supporting roles, always playing second fiddle. She even played my maid in one series, something I'm sure she never forgot. That's probably where her grudge started. She saw me as the competition she could never beat. Even when my career hit a rough patch, when my agency started sidelining me, and my reputation took a nosedive, she never let up. As she started gaining more attention, she took every chance to step on me like it was some kind of personal victory. I sighed thinking about it all. Once this film wraps up, my contract with the agency will be almost over. And with it, the storm that's been brewing will finally hit. I need to start preparing. Chapter 10. Thanks to Carol crashing the production, the filming schedule got completely derailed. We had to reshoot so many scenes, extending the shoot by at least a month. The crew wasn't happy, but no one dared say anything. After all, Carol had some serious backing behind her. What surprised me, though, was how this was all playing out. Just a few weeks ago, the tabloids were buzzing with rumors about her and Andrew. Yet here she was, still holding on to her sugar daddy, Richard. How had she managed to keep both guys in line without either of them catching on? Chapter 11. The crew wrapped up filming, and that night we all headed to the wrap party to celebrate. Linda showed up, of course. She stuck close to me the entire evening, playing the role of the attentive manager, even dragging me over to toast with the producers and directors. For once, she looked the part, like she was actually doing her job. But once the party wound down, she pulled me aside and led me to her car. I went along curious to see where this was going. And as expected, the moment we were alone, she cut straight to business. "Rebecca, you're coming with me to a dinner tomorrow night," she said, her voice dripping with false warmth. "It's important. Lots of investors and directors will be there. It'll open doors for you, get you the right kinds of roles." I raised an eyebrow and smiled, letting her words hang in the air for a moment. "Linda, if I'm not mistaken, I've only got about a month left on my contract, right? Any word on when that termination agreement will be ready?" Her smile froze and her face darkened. "What are you implying? You're thinking of breaking the contract?" I kept my tone light, but my meaning was clear. "Breaking the contract? No, I'm just not renewing it." She gave me a once-over, her eyes narrowing. "Oh, so you've gotten a bit of attention, and now you think you're too good for us? The company's done nothing but support you, and now you want to run off after finally making a name for yourself." I couldn't help but laugh. "Support me? Linda, let's be real. You and the company did nothing but hold me back for years. Where were you when I was schlepping from audition to audition, script in hand, hoping for a shot? You half buried me. Now you want to act like you've been in my corner all along? I've been stuck in this contract for 10 years, and when it's up, I'm gone." Her face twisted with anger. "Oh, you think you're so clever now? Fine. But until that contract expires, you're still under my thumb. And tomorrow night, you're going to that dinner whether you like it or not." I knew exactly what kind of dinner she was talking about, and I knew there was no getting around it. Once you've cast the line, you've got to reel it in. Chapter 12. I chose a bright dress specifically for the dinner party. As soon as I stepped into the private room, all eyes turned to me, especially Richard, who was leering at me, his hand rubbing his chin. Perfect. This was exactly the reaction I wanted. Linda guided me to a seat next to Richard. I smiled at him. "Good evening, Mr. Richard." Richard chuckled, his laugh as oily as his gaze. "I've heard about you, Rebecca, right? I nodded, maintaining my smile. After a few rounds of drinks, everyone was starting to get a bit tipsy. I was feeling the effects too, but I wasn't drunk. During this time, Richard kept pushing drinks on me. Linda, meanwhile, kept whispering in my ear to behave. I excused myself to the restroom. I touched up my makeup, adding a bit more blush to give myself a slightly flushed look. When I returned to my seat, it didn't take long before I felt a hand on my thigh. It started to move up, but I grabbed it firmly. Richard looked surprised. I turned to him with a smile. "Mr. Richard, isn't this a bit inappropriate?" He laughed, leaning in closer. "Then let's go somewhere more private." Suppressing my disgust, I nodded. Richard led me out of the private room. As we left, the others gave us knowing, sleazy looks, while Linda beamed with satisfaction. Richard wanted to take me upstairs to a room in the same hotel, but I refused. "No, Mr. Richard, there are too many eyes here. I can't relax." I tugged playfully at his tie. Richard's face lit up with a lecherous grin. I suggested we go to another nearby hotel where I had already booked a room, promising him some special surprises. Richard, thinking I had prepared something exciting, eagerly agreed. I led him to the hotel I had booked. As soon as we entered the room, Richard lunged at me like a monkey in heat. I pushed him away and he looked annoyed. "Get undressed first, Mr. Richard. I'll get ready in the bathroom." Richard let go of me and started stripping. I went into the bathroom, pulled out my phone and sent a message. Richard lay naked on the bed, waiting for me. Before he knew it, a group of men in black burst into the room, cameras rolling. Richard was shocked, grabbing a nearby blanket to cover himself, shouting, "What the hell are you doing? Get out." I stepped out of the bathroom and nodded to the leader of the group. The men grabbed Richard and started beating him. He crawled around on the floor, at first cursing me, then begging for mercy. When they were done, he was left bruised and battered on the floor. These men were hired by me, stationed in the next room. I had specifically requested strong fighters, just in case Richard tried to escape. I walked over to Richard, who glared at me with hatred. "You bitch! How dare you have me beaten? Do you know who I am? When I get out of here, I'll..." Before he could finish, another round of punches and kicks rained down on him. Richard curled up, begging for mercy. I crouched down, looking at his swollen, tear-streaked face. A wave of satisfaction washed over me. Seeing this scumbag so pathetic, I finally felt a sense of relief. I took out my phone and snapped a picture of his face. "What did the agency promise you?" "The agency was my management company." Richard's eyes darted around, his neck stiff. "What promise? What are you talking about?" I sighed and stood up. "You don't want to cooperate? Fine." I signaled to the men, and they resumed beating him. Eventually, Richard sobbed, "I'll talk. I'll talk." I waved my hand and they stopped. "The agency promised me actresses in exchange for investment." Kicked him. "Details. I want details." They said they'd send me a few actresses, models, whatever I wanted every month. "Where?" "To my bed." "How many so far?" "Just one." They said it was a free trial to show their sincerity. "It was that girl from your company, Carol." "Carol?" "Yes, Carol." I looked at him with disgust. He seemed provoked by my stare and started to struggle. "It was consensual. Carol's a slut. She was eager to get into my bed. I gave her so many resources." After hearing this, I slapped him several times, repaying the humiliation from my past life. I added fuel to the fire. "Did you know Carol is Linda's favorite? Linda and I planned this together." "Who told you to touch Carol?" "She's Linda's precious." Before leaving, I threatened him. If he ever tried to retaliate, I'd release the video online and let him face legal consequences. Chapter 13. When I got home, I made multiple backups of the video, storing them in various places around my house. Then I relaxed, spending my days reading and studying. The phone rang and I didn't need to look to know who it was. Linda. After I had Richard beaten, I heard that the agency's investment deal fell through. Not only did Richard pull out, but all companies associated with him were also instructed not to invest in the agency. The agency's CEO was furious, not understanding why the deal had suddenly collapsed. All they knew was that Linda had handled it, so she took the brunt of the blame. Linda was scolded harshly and almost fired. In the end, she was demoted several levels but kept her job due to her long tenure. I figured Linda was livid. After all, the deal fell apart right after the dinner party, so she naturally suspected me. Sure enough, as soon as I answered, Linda's furious voice exploded in my ear. "Rebecca, what did you do? Why did Mr. Richard suddenly pull out? Do you know how much the company lost? What the hell did you do?" I rubbed my ear, annoyed. Yes, I did it. I had Richard beaten up. Linda was stunned for a moment, then started yelling again. "You bitch. I told you to entertain him. How dare you have him beaten? What's wrong with beating a scumbag? I wanted to beat you too, but I held back because you're a woman. Who told you to try to send me to his bed? You give me trash, I return the favor. Isn't that fair? I was doing you a favor by sending you to Richard. Do you know how many resources he could have given you? You need to come to the office and explain this to the CEO. You'll face the consequences. Not today. Maybe in a couple of days. I'll visit your esteemed company." I quickly hung up. No way was I going to let her pollute my ears with such nonsense. Chapter 14. For the next few days, Linda called me multiple times a day, but I didn't answer any of them. I counted the days, waiting for the right moment. Finally, the day arrived. I went to the agency with a lawyer and a few bodyguards. I went straight to HR and handed over a contract. The HR manager looked at me and said, "Wait a moment, I need to consult with the higher-ups." Soon the vice president came down. He got straight to the point. "So you're the one who ruined our deal?" I played dumb. "What do you mean, vice president? I don't know anything about that. How could a small actress like me ruin your deal?" He tapped the table. "Linda told me you had Richard beaten." It wasn't a question, it was a statement. I continued to feign ignorance. "I don't know what you're talking about. Linda has no proof. Linda had no evidence. If she did, she wouldn't just be calling me every day. And Richard wouldn't want to publicize it either, as it would hurt his pride." The vice president and I stared at each other in silence. Eventually, he sighed and spoke first. "You want to terminate your contract?" I tapped the table. "The contract has expired. According to the terms, yesterday was my last day as your artist." "What's the difference?" "There's a big difference. If I terminate the contract, I'm the weaker party. But now that it's expired, we're fulfilling our legal rights and obligations. We're equals." The vice president nodded, seemingly resigned. Signing my name on the termination contract felt like a huge weight lifting off my shoulders. I was finally free. When I first joined the agency, they promised me great resources and a clear career path. I thought I was on my way to stardom, but instead I fell into a pit. Just 6 months after signing, they demanded I entertain clients. I refused, and Linda was furious, taking away several of my resources. I didn't back down, so the company semi-shelved me. And that led to the tragic events of my past life. But now I was truly free. I finally owned myself completely. As I turned to leave, the vice president spoke again. "Rebecca, do you know what consequences you'll face? Do you know what you're up against?" I ignored him and walked out. Of course I knew. Leaving the agency meant losing their protection. But I never had their protection, only their relentless exploitation. Offending Richard and betraying my agency meant I could be blacklisted in the industry. But I didn't care. I had earned enough money over the years to live comfortably, and I had a backup plan. Chapter 15. The day my contract ended, I eagerly posted on Twitter, announcing my departure from the agency. The internet was calm. After all, it's common for artists to switch agencies or go independent. My fans supported my decision, until I trended again. I couldn't understand why a third-rate actress like me kept trending. I scrolled through the posts and realized what was happening. A marketing account had accused me of being ungrateful. They claimed my agent had supported me for years, providing many resources, but I ruined the company's deal and got my agent demoted. My haters ran with the story, spreading it everywhere. More marketing accounts joined in, adding insider details. I knew something was off when Rebecca suddenly left the agency. Rebecca is really that kind of person? I hate backstabbers. Rebecca is cancelled. Another celebrity scandal. Rebecca, get out of the entertainment industry. I read the comments with amusement. These marketing accounts were quite creative. The trending topic started to drop, so I paid to keep it going, mixing truth and lies. Linda's slip-up took the story to a new level. She liked a post calling me ungrateful, then quickly unliked it. She even posted a cryptic message. Leaving the darkness, the sun shines brighter. Everyone should open their eyes. You never truly know someone. Her actions sent the topic skyrocketing to the top. Everyone believed Linda was personally calling me out. Even her agent is exposing her. Rebecca must be awful. Rebecca, get out of the entertainment industry. Poor agent. My improving reputation took a nosedive. I waited for the story to simmer. Then I put down my phone and continued reading. The next morning, I posted a clarification. I included a recording of my conversation with Linda. Rebecca, what did you do? Why did Mr. Richard suddenly pull out? Do you know how much the company lost? What the hell did you do? You bitch. I told you to entertain him. How dare you have him beaten? What's wrong with beating a scumbag? I wanted to beat you too, but I held back because you're a woman. Who told you to try to send me to his bed? You give me trash, I return the favor. Isn't that fair? I was doing you a favor by sending you to Richard. Do you know how many resources he could have given you? You need to come to the office and explain this to the CEO. You'll face the consequences. Not today. Maybe in a couple of days. I'll visit your esteemed company. My post immediately went viral. Hashtag Rebecca clarifies. Hashtag Rebecca's passion. Hashtag Linda. Hashtag agency. The trending topics were all about me. Rebecca, I'm so sorry. I misjudged Rebecca. We should apologize to Rebecca. I feel terrible for blaming her. Rebecca has principles. Her agent is awful, forcing her to entertain clients and framing her. Linda is disgusting. Public opinion shifted, and people started apologizing to me. My reputation was completely restored. At the same time, the agency's practice of forcing artists to entertain clients became widely known. I called the police, reporting the agency for illegal activities, including tax evasion and other crimes. Normally, such a report might be suppressed. But with public pressure, the police had to investigate. Sure enough, a special task force was formed to investigate the agency, and Linda was suspended. Chapter 16. And at the center of it all, me. I had passed the civil service exam. Chapter 17. Yes, I passed the exam and became a government employee. Right after my rebirth, I started preparing for the exam. After 2 lifetimes in the entertainment industry, I was exhausted. I wanted a stable job and a peaceful life. No more public appearances, no more trending topics. After some thought and seeing my bank balance, I made my decision. I would become a civil servant. Chapter 18. Before starting my new job, I announced my retirement from the entertainment industry. I informed the industry first, canceling all my engagements. Then I recorded a vlog to announce my decision, thanking my fans for their support. The internet exploded. Fans begged me to stay, expressing their sadness. Even casual followers felt it was a loss. My haters were stunned. Did we force Rebecca to retire? I feel so guilty. Rebecca, don't go. Rebecca, please stay. They even trended hashtag Rebecca, please stay. But I was determined to leave, though I promised to share occasional updates on social media. Chapter 19. On my first day at work, my colleagues were shocked. But they quickly warmed up to me, finding me polite and down to earth. Soon we were getting along great. Life after retiring from the industry was peaceful. I worked 9 to 5, occasionally putting in extra hours. My days were comfortable and enjoyable, except for the occasional fan asking for a photo or autograph. But that became less frequent over time. The only real stir was on my first day. I trended again, but my fans quickly organized to remove the topic, worried it would affect my new life. Photos of me reporting for duty, working at my desk, and entering the administrative building circulated online. Finally, people realized I had truly retired. And the most surprising part, I had become a civil servant. Rebecca is amazing. Rebecca passed the civil service exam. I didn't even pass. Me neither. Is the ultimate goal of celebrities to get a government job? Rebecca is the first celebrity to retire and become a civil servant. Rebecca is incredible. Chapter 20. After some time, my work and life settled into a routine. With the protection of the government, I made my move. I sold the video of Richard to a well-known paparazzo. He had exposed many industry secrets. He chose a prime time to release the video. He also shared other dirt on Richard, backed by solid evidence. Many celebrities and influencers came forward with their stories, revealing their own experiences. I had contacted him earlier, knowing he had some dirt on Richard but not enough. My video was the final nail in the coffin. The entertainment industry was rocked once again, this time because of Richard. My video spread across the internet. Of course, people quickly figured out I was the one who filmed it. My voice was recognizable to many. Rebecca is fearless. Rebecca is the best. Rebecca is amazing. Carol is really that kind of person? No wonder Rebecca kept clashing with Carol on the show. I just realized. Rebecca is cleaning up the entertainment industry. The result was that Richard was taken into custody for investigation. Carol's reputation was destroyed as her involvement in the scandal was confirmed. Her career was over. I had finally avenged myself and felt an overwhelming sense of satisfaction. Chapter 21. From now on, everything would be bright and beautiful.